Hi, I'm Vicki Banthorpe. I'm the Managing Director for Momentum for Professionals, and we do strategic and practical support for businesses such as yours that need a help with their marketing and marketing ideas. I'd like to thank SWAT, who've invited me here today to talk about communicating with clients, and in particular how you can add value to your existing client relationships. So, as you can see from the slide, there are several benefits of communicating with your clients in an ongoing way. First of all, it does enhance your reputation. It gets you across as being a trusted advisor. They can have reassurance in that what you're doing is at the forefront of the information that they need to know to run their business, and they can rely on what you're saying. But they need you to tell them that often so that they know that they don't need to go looking anywhere else. It's a great way of raising awareness of your other services, and quite often we think that our clients know exactly what we do, and if they want something they'll come and ask. That's not always the case. So communicating regularly with your clients does really help to make sure that as and when they need a particular service, they've got you and your service base right in front of mind, and they'll come and talk to you rather than anybody else. It's also a great way of actually improving client satisfaction. So by communicating with your clients regularly, you can actually keep at the forefront of their mind and actually give them their reassurance that they've chosen the right partner, the right accountant, and so on. It helps to retain that client for much longer. And as we all know, actually keeping a client is a lot less hassle and cheaper and more effective than having to go out and to recruit new clients all the time. But there's one particular area where you really want to consider communicating with your clients, and that's if there's something happening, change is happening within the practice. So this might be because a partner is retiring, a key member of staff is leaving, you might be merging or acquiring a different business. It might even be as simple as an office move. But wherever there is change happening that your client might be thinking, well, how does that affect me? Who do I contact? What's the new process? That is the key time when you really should be having a communications program to make sure that your client is fully up to speed with what's happening, how it's going to affect them, and so they can be reassured as to sort of what they need to do going forward. So how can you add value to your current client relationships? Okay, the first thing to consider is actually having a plan. And by this I mean actually committing to paper or a spreadsheet, could be the back of a fag packet. However you work, it's important to actually document what communication activities you're going to do over the next 12 months. And by committing this to an actual piece of paper or spreadsheet, you can see what you're looking to do and when, which target audiences you're wanting to actually communicate with and with what messages. But by having the plan and setting this out, you can see where there's holes, that there's got no communication taking place, and you can do something about it. Now the great thing about having the plan, you could change this as time goes on, but actually to start with this as a basis for your future communications, it actually lets you see when are we communicating, so that you don't have 2 or 3 months where you seem to be bombarding your clients all the while, and then nothing for the rest of the year. You actually spread out your activities, and in doing so, it actually helps you to plan your resources, because if you're organising events or you've got mailings or anything like that happening, you're going to need manpower to actually implement it. If you've got it in a plan, you can check that that's happening at a time when you've got the resources to do it, and if cash flow is potentially an issue, you can actually then spread that out across the year rather than having everything happening in 1 or 2 months. The next thing which is vital for your communications is to actually be proactive. And this is time and time again when we've done client surveys, we hear our clients sort of say to us, I wish my accountant, I wish my lawyer, whoever the supplier is, I wish they were more proactive. They want to hear from you over and above just the general work that you're doing for them. And it's important that when you're sending out your messages, you personalise them as much as possible, so that the reader, the end recipient, really feels that you're liaising with them, you're contacting them on a one-to-one basis, that you've got their interests at heart. So send out topical updates, send out when it's timely, so that the clients can actually make use of that information which is relevant to them. But it's important that you understand that the communication process is all about engaging with your clients. You know, you want to send a mailing, you want to send an email, you want to post something on social media because you want your client to read that and start that interaction. Because ultimately, you want that client to come back to you to say, I saw what you posted on LinkedIn, that was an interesting article, I think I might need some help with that. You want your client to actually start that dialogue with you, but you need to start that conversation by almost putting the words into their mouth in terms of identifying this is a potential issue or something you need to be aware of, but we're here to help, and keeping that door open and all the different sort of ways that they can come back to you, whether it's a phone call, through the website, through an email, making sure that they can actually respond to what you're sending out. The next thing which is really important when you're planning your marketing communications is actually to have a database. And I don't just mean a database of contact names and addresses and phone numbers. This is taking it to the next level. And so it's important that you use that database to start building profiles of the businesses and the clients that you want to contact. So the type of information that you want to log may be the business sectors, their location, the size of their business, whether it's turnover, number of staff. Could even be the current services that they're using you for, possibly what you think they would benefit from using from you in the future. But by logging all of this information in one central database, moving forward, it's very easy to actually say, we want to target manufacturing people in this particular area that have got a business of 3 million plus turnover, and send them a relevant message which is connected to their business without sending a similar message to farmers, retail businesses and so on, of which of course it is unlikely to have any impact on them. So by actually having the database set up, you're more likely to be sending out fewer communications, but they're much more targeted, so you're less likely to annoy clients by sending them things they're not interested in. And the database is great for sending out information to individual clients, but also to your prospective clients as well. So it's important when you are looking to do a communications plan that you actually use different formats of communication. We all respond to different communications, whether that's through the phone, email, letters, and social media, even a networking event. We are all receptive to these different forms, and you need to bear that in mind when you're communicating with your clients. So simple things such as sending out a mailing. Going back to what we said previously about being proactive and being personal, if you're sending out a mailing to your client, for example a report, don't just send out the mailing with a covering letter and a copy of the report saying, I've enclosed a copy of the report you might find interesting. If there's something specifically which your client should be made aware of, really flag that up to them. Either put into the covering letter, please see page 4, we think this is of really interest to you. You might want to come and have a chat with us about it. Or even highlight with a highlighter pen the relevant paragraphs within the report that you want to draw their attention to. But it's important that you go the extra mile. It's not just a case of just getting something out in the post to them and that's it, tick the box. You want them to actually understand, acknowledge and start that two-way communication. I think with emails, we're all bombarded with emails, but actually if you're sending a specific communication to a client, the email is very relevant still. But it's important that you actually put together a good title and a good subject matter which is going to capture their imagination. You want them to open that email, you want them to actually read it and obviously then respond to you. Don't send a long email, just send something which is going to whet their appetite so they know what the whole communication is about, but then refer them either to the website for more details or to ring you. What you want to do with that email is get them to actually understand, I need to perhaps look into this in a bit more detail, but know that they can contact you in whichever way, shape or form to find out that information, to start that communication again. Next, telephone calls. I think almost like the last bastion of communication these days, but it shouldn't be. And I think when you do get lots of people that are emailing and letters going backwards and forwards, actually picking up the phone to a client and discussing what the content of those emails are can be much more effective and actually add much more value to that relationship, because then both parties get to say what they think is right. There's no misunderstanding, which you can get in emails and letters, but a very crucial way of having that one-to-one contact with your client. And I think also it's important with telephone calls that sometimes just literally pick up the phone to a client to say, how's things going? You know, quite often we don't do that. We get bogged down in the day-to-day minutiae of the client work, but we fail to sit back and say, actually, I wonder how so-and-so's doing. You know, I saw them mentioned in the local paper. Yeah, I'll give them a call. We haven't spoken for a while. So do use the telephone as a proactive form of communicating with your clients. So other forms of communication that you might want to consider when you're putting together your 12-month plan is having a formal take a client out to lunch or dinner programme. And I've seen this work very effectively, where each month partners within a firm will actually take out one or two of their sort of clients that they want to sort of get to know better. It might be just as a thank you for the service that they provide or any referrals that they have sent your way. But a really vital sort of form of communication, usually in a very informal setting, so you can both sort of relax a little bit, you can chew the cud over whatever business issues are affecting all of your businesses. It's a good way of actually just getting to know each other better, really sort of developing that relationship to the next level. A great way also of picking up information from the client on what they think of your practice, of the service they're getting. Is there anything that you need to be aware of that perhaps you might need to look into with a view to improving going forward? But a great way of actually achieving that. Next up, we've got events that you might want to organise to communicate with your clients. So this could be something formal, such as seminars. It could be something informal, such as organising a golf day or a corporate hospitality event. But all these things are really good ways of communicating with your clients, getting that one-to-one relationship going, but also in terms of your practice, is getting your client to know other people within the practice, so that it's not just you that they need to get hold of all the time. They're aware that there's other people that can help them in the first instance. Another important thing to remember with events is don't worry if people can't attend, because quite often it's very powerful for them to receive an invite. The fact that just out of the blue they've been invited by you to attend a golf day or a seminar just makes them think, oh, that was good, they were thinking about me. And that's what you want to achieve, that your client thinks that you're always there at the back of their mind, you've got their back, you've got them covered, that you've got their interests at heart. That's what you're trying to achieve to add value. The next point is social media. I love it or hate it. I think it's here to stay, and what actually can be a very good form of communicating with your clients. So, and this can be done at their own pace, so they can dip in and out of your social media communications as and when they want to. Then you're not sort of pushing them into doing things that they don't want to do. But social media is such a great way of actually for you to get across your expertise. If you're writing blogs or articles on a particular subject matter, helps re-establish that reputation, but also a great way of your clients receiving that information, reading it, and sharing it with their contacts, so it helps to get your name out to a much wider audience. And then we've also got client surveys, and if you do these, certainly over the phone, it's a great way of actually finding out more from your clients as to what they think of your service, what they like, what they don't like, but it's the actual appreciation that they feel that my client, my accountant rather, has taken time out to find out what I think about them. It gives them that bit of a warm and fuzzy that you've actually sort of taken the time to want to communicate them within this way, with a view to actually helping them and the service that they receive in the future. So client survey is a really good way of actually communicating with your clients. So we've got our plan in place, we're going to be proactive, we're going to personalise what we're saying, we're going to use a database to actually get that message across to the right people. We've got various different communication tools that we're going to use. The next thing we want to do is actually just pulling it all together, is to monitor how well that plan is taking effect. And this is great. You need to sort of look at what you're doing and how often are you doing it. Identify who you've communicated with over that 12-month period, but actually who you haven't. Is there anybody that you've missed out that you should be communicating with? And if so, seek to address that going forward. It's important that with each activity you do, whether it's a mailing, an event, an email campaign, that you actually get feedback from that activity. And that might be just one-to-one feedback from your client, or it might be just a numbers game in terms of how many people turned up to the seminar, who came to the corporate hospitality event, how many people responded to an advert we put in the local paper. But what's important when you're looking at those activities is to think, was the message right? Did we communicate with our audience? Did we hit the spot? If you're organising an event and you didn't get the turnout that you were hoping for, well, okay, does that come down to the organisation, that they weren't aware of it? We didn't leave enough time for them to actually make plans to attend? Did it clash with something else, a bigger sporting event that everybody went to instead? Or was it just actually that our message just didn't get the message across as we wanted it to? So really look back at each activity. How could you improve it going forward? And learn from that, so when you're doing the next 12 months, you're not making the same mistakes again. And it's important to also look at the cost and the benefit of each of the activities. But to bear in mind, it's not the actual cost of the activity itself that you want to gauge. It's actually looking at the lifetime value of that client. So by doing more communication, by keeping your clients in the loop, by letting them know that you are there if they need you, inviting them to seminars, giving them topical updates, if that helps to keep that client as a client for as long as possible, the cost of that is spread out over a much wider period rather than for that one single event. So that's enough from me, I think. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found that as a brief, sort of useful update. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You've got the contact details on the next slide. I'm more than happy to speak to you. Thank you.